Well, I did mention that to a few people we know this morning.
We're going to call our meeting to order. This is the recess session. It's Wednesday, October the 16th. Recess session of the Nags Head Board of Commissioners. These things are live. Our first item of business this evening is the adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Our next item is audience response. This is the time that we set aside for the public to come and speak to the board. If you will, come to the podium and give us your name and address, and we will listen.
Hey, I'm Molly Harrison, live on Lakeside Street, and I just wanted to say that I heard you were talking about the possible purchase of the Dowdy land today, and I just wanted to say, is that true?
I didn't hear you.
You're speaking about the possible purchase of the Dowdy land today? I wanted to say that I'm in favor of that. If the town, I haven't looked at your budget, I have to say, but if you have the money, I am in favor of purchasing that property for the park. I think it's a good thing for the town to spend money on. The location is perfect with the school and the Y and the Bond Street access being close by, and I'm in favor of that when you get to that topic. And I think that's it. Thanks for the good job that you do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, I'm Richard Murphy at 8817 South Logan Inlet Road. I'm going to give you a little bit of history about me. My love affair with Nags Head started over 60 years ago when I was 3 years old and came down and stayed at Ray Cahoon's cottages with my parents. And my love for Nags Head has never wavered. You know, not one iota. And when I was fortunate enough to buy my first property in South Nags Head in 1978, I was elated that I had the money, you know, to be able to do that. One thing that, and I got involved in, I won't say politics, I wasn't running for anything, but at that point in time, the west side of South Nags Head was not developed. And a proposal came up to subdivide it as it is today. And where we have that lovely fire station down there now, there was an attempt to zone that northernmost end commercial. And then there was talk of having a 7-Eleven down there. At that point in time, one of our distinguished commissioners, past commissioners, Jean Acree, was my neighbor, and her husband, John Acree, and I started what was known then as the Nags Head Civic Association. And the impetus in starting that organization was to try to manage what development was going on in South Nags Head and circumvent anything being commercial down there. Obviously, we had a 7-Eleven a couple of miles away. We didn't need another. We were instrumental in getting the commissioners to agree with us. Citizens groups like that are very, very important and instrumental. And I'm not so sure at this point in time, with things that are going on in Nags Head, that having another Nags Head Civic Association reemerge might not be a bad idea. I hate to see politics come into decision-making processes that affect the average voter. We have you as elected officials, me, I'm on the planning board, anybody on the Board of Adjustments, we're what's called public servants. And a definition of a public servant to me is we are supposed to serve the public. That means any decisions that you guys make, we make those based on what the majority of the voters in Nags Head, or taxpayers, would prefer to have. And I don't know that we are getting the information out to the average voters. It's unfortunate that we don't have a larger meeting room. We don't have 60 or 70 people at every commissioner's meeting. I think we tend to hear comments, negative comments, when a particular small group of people don't necessarily want anything. It's always been my thinking that don't complain if you don't vote. And it would be very interesting to see how many people complain that didn't vote in the prior election. So we need to do everything we can to encourage all of our registered voters, to vote. And the people that are citizens that are not registered voters, we need to see if we can get them to register so that you guys can make decisions not on a personal whim, but based on what the voters want you to do. And I hope to be instrumental in doing that, but getting the information out. I think it's fantastic that we are publicizing. At least a lot of people that I've talked to in the community are watching TV, so they see some of the things that are going on. But a lot of times that's after the fact. And so we need to do a better job as citizens, to get the information out. But I've been really disenchanted with this off-year election because of some of the, I'll call it political posturing that's going on. And it's a shame, as small a town as we have, and as small as our budget is, that we have to stoop to doing things that have personal agendas as opposed to what the actual citizens that have put us in office want us to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Mr. White?
I did bring my bright yellow hat tonight. I'm Perry White from Villa Dunes Drive. I didn't bring my bright yellow hat tonight, and that has a symbol on it. But tomorrow night, across the road, in the big meeting room over there, the Outer Banks Repeater Association is having a meeting. And I just would like to invite you to come over and see how your ham radio operators serve the entire county. We man all the fire stations during an emergency, spending the entire hurricane, say, at a fire station, at EOC. We also will be at the marathon, totally, including a bicycle rider behind the last runner, riding for hours to make sure that everybody on the course is safe. We'll also be doing the VIP fishing tournament at our fishing piers. Invite you to come over. The public won't hear this, but you'll also see the number of firefighters that you have that are also ham radio operators in this town, and meet probably 25 or 30 working radio operators who serve you, especially in emergencies, but also for your events. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Perry? Perry, where is that meeting and what time is it?
7 o'clock at Station 16 in the South Wing.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Marvin Demers, 8819 South Old Oregon Inlet. I would just like to echo the sentiments of Ms. Harrison about the Dowdy site. I do think that would be a good acquisition for the town, a good expenditure of the taxpayers' dollars. And in addition, I know we don't have a detailed plan for that site, but I know of several members on the Parks and Rec Committee that would be very willing to reconvene that committee and help develop a good plan for that site if the commissioners would so like. Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm Ralph Buxton from Villa Dunes Drive. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. And I'd like to address the Dowdy property. As you all know, we spent Recreation Committee spent about a year looking at recreation needs for the town of Nags Head and acquiring more property, and particular property like the Dowdies came up pretty high on the list of needs. And you all scrubbed our plan carefully and came up, revised it somewhat, but you still saw the need for acquiring property. And in the last year and a half, you've been looking at various properties, and including the Dowdy property. I'm very glad to hear that the price has come down substantially, and that the sellers are willing to work with the town. And it just seems like a really good time to strike while the iron is hot. I heard from YouTube the last commissioners meeting, your thinking there on delaying the vote or the acquisition, and there were some good reasons put out, including waiting until after the election or doing some more planning. Well, I think, well, you can always do more planning, and yes, it would be good to have some other people involved that are going to be with this project in the long term or longer term. At the same time, the League of Women Voters Forum that you had here just a few weeks ago showed that the candidates also supported the Dowdy property acquisition. So I think there's a really good basis for proceeding now rather than waiting and possibly having to go through another education process, having to have perhaps new priorities considered. You guys really know this project. You know, you've been, you're on the ground here in planning the whole recreation review for the town, and then creating the priorities, and then starting negotiations with the landowners. And so why not follow through now? Right now is the time to finish this and, you know, put this feather in your cap before you go off the board, and not leave unfinished business for the next board. I'd say that everything I've heard has been very positive, and so please proceed and vote your conscience on this, and let it be put to rest, and we'll have another great asset for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
David Elder, Carolinian Circle. Thanks for the road. Carolinian Circle, thank you for working with us on that. Also, here to support, same point as there's the recreation. We don't have a quorum of the Recreation Committee, but it's a good part of them. We did a lot of work. We talked about a lot during those that group of meetings that we had, and there were many things that came up. It's opportunity versus expenditures. It seems that is what I identify the equation here. And price, if price is advantageous, then that might throw the balance one way or the other, but it's political will of the board. And right now, the opportunity is maybe good as the board judges the price, as well as time will be the ultimate judge of this decision, because prices most likely will rebound. And it is that we have a good opportunity. And one of the things that was identified by pretty much everybody that we surveyed is, when people think of Nags Head, one of the things that is not quite identified is the center of Nags Head. What is the downtown of Nags Head? Not that there should be a downtown, but a focal point. Perhaps this is something that could be worked out, as plans for this site are not necessarily any firmer than Jell-O right now. They're maybe a little bit less firm than the price, but the price is a good price. And I hope that you can see a path forward towards that acquisition. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else speak for public comment this evening? Well, there's somebody in the room that hadn't spoken yet. With that, we're going to close public comment. Thank you all very much for coming, speaking. Our next item is consideration of appointments to the Pedestrian Plan Committee. Ms. Teague?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Hello, everybody. In your packet there, you'll see a slate of nominees for our Pedestrian Plan Steering Committee. This is the committee that will help guide the process to come up with a comprehensive pedestrian plan. This will require a couple of different elements. Certainly infrastructure. How do we make our infrastructure safer? Where are our existing sidewalks and crosswalks and multi-use paths? And what are the priorities for creating new ones? But also education and programming and overall increase in awareness of pedestrian and bicycle safety as part of the process. The people that you see on this nominee list represent several key stakeholders in that process. Certainly DOT, Barbara Gernot from our planning board, Debbie Moore, who's on our boardwalk committee, and also the director of Tanger, Molly Harrison, who's here tonight. She was on our Parks and Recreation plan, but she's also a neighborhood person with children that use our schools. She's participated in our Safe Routes to School program. Rick Chance, who is another business leader, manager of Food Lion, and he's been very active in our Bicycle and Pedestrian Task Force. Chris Montgomery from our police department, Phil Wolf from our fire department, and Michelle Owens with the American Heart Association. And I'll add that Michelle Owens is a wonderful resource. She is working here, living here locally, but she coordinates the federal national program for the White House in terms of trying to look at community infrastructure and how it affects public health. So it's very exciting that she can be on this committee, and we appreciate her being here. Our allocation of planning staff would be your planner, myself, and Kelly Wyatt, your deputy director. And then we would very much like one of you to be on that committee as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Elizabeth? When do y'all anticipate meeting first?
Well, the first role is going to be to select a consultant. We have an RFP queued up to go out, so probably early December will be the first meeting. With the consultant, we'll come up with a scope of work for allocating some public meetings, possibly some surveys, some preliminary mapping. So I would foresee maybe 6 to 8 meetings as we get into the planning process over the course of the year. And that schedule will be determined really by the committee themselves.
Mayor, I'd like to nominate Renee. The reason being, there's 2 reasons. I'd like to see continuity from the board, continue on with this major project, and also she happens to live and work right in the Whalebone Junction area where she sees a lot of the biking pedestrian pros and cons. She's very aware of the problems that have been down in that area, and I think she'd make an excellent representative from the board.
Second? We need a second? I mean, you
I guess we need
make
a
this a
second.
motion, and that's further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
I hope you take it.
I'm not sure that that's a good one or not, but we'll see.
Will you take it?
You gotta speak up. You gotta speak up.
Well, just in the interest of clarity, I also sit on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Task Force that's been working to promote pedestrian and bicycle safety all summer long, so I just want everybody to know that.
I think that will tie in extremely well.
Really well.
Approval for the rest of our slate there. Motion to approve
I make
that?
a motion that we approve the remaining, or the proposed members as submitted.
Second? Or further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. You picked out a nice group.
Yes.
And that's impressive that the American Heart Association person is on there. We're very fortunate. Our next item is consideration of a request to rescind Town Code Section 16-1, smoking in municipal buildings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Transformation Grant Project Coordinator with the Adair County Department of Public Health contacted me about a month ago and brought embarrassingly to my attention an ordinance that I didn't know existed. It's a 20-year-old ordinance that was written in 1993 to address smoking in public facilities or in town buildings. It's woefully outdated. There's been a lot of discussion in the last several years, a lot of back and forth through the general statutes, whether or not there was a sunset clause at one time that in order to determine where smoking was prohibited, you had to do it by a certain date. That's since changed, and there's a general statute now that gives us the authority to regulate smoking by policy. It's my recommendation that you rescind that ordinance in total, and that we continue to regulate tobacco use on our grounds, in our vehicles, in our facilities as we have without knowledge of this ordinance. So this policy would effectively not change anything. Smoking is not allowed in town-owned facilities. We've regulated where visitors and employees can smoke. We have designated smoking areas. By policy, we don't allow smoking within 20 feet of a public building, and that primarily is because we have a lot of use of our training room at Town Hall, and they kind of migrate out to the front for their breaks. That no longer will happen. Still, you can't smoke in town vehicles, so I felt like I had an opportunity to get rid of an ordinance and not put one in its place where a policy would effectively do the same thing. So my recommendation to you is to allow us to go forward with this policy. I do want to thank Lisa Phillips for all of her help. She's been a tremendous asset, because from her bringing this awareness to me, she's offered grant opportunities. She's offered herself and her resources as an opportunity to partner with others in town to work on some no smoking policies. So that's my recommendation.
So we'd be eliminating an ordinance and replacing it with an administrative policy.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we rescind the existing ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next item is public comments on the stormwater management ordinance and presentation of the BMP Manual. All right.
In your packet and on the board website, on the town website, is the beginning draft of what we're calling our Best Management Practices Manual. At the board's request, they wanted to see what this would look like because we had been talking about it as a guidance document that would run along with the ordinance to give people low-cost ways to manage stormwater on individual lots. Again, the big difference with this new stormwater is that it does extend to individual residential lots where people are using fill. So we wanted to be able to provide information on ways to manage that stormwater. I will point out that at the back here and at your seat, I've put in a copy of Smart Yards. This is a publication from the Coastal Federation of North Carolina, and they have partnered with us to develop our local stormwater BMP manual. What we're hoping to do is have something very similar to this in the heart of the BMP manual, but using local pictures and local information. So in the BMP draft that you see, and it takes a very long time to load up, are local examples of ways to manage stormwater effectively here in Nags Head. If we could just scroll down to the table of contents, just to give you a sense of what we're including in this manual, is under background and purpose, some of the environmental information that we brought to you as part of the stormwater subcommittee work, in terms of what does it mean here in Nags Head on a barrier island with our water table, with our dune system, with our dependence on septic. What are some of the environmental constraints that we have that make it necessary for us to manage stormwater in particular ways? We also talk about our general technical standards for managing stormwater in Nags Head. And this is about our ordinance itself, how it applies locally, how you can implement this ordinance in ways that make sense. And obviously, until we actually adopt a stormwater management ordinance, that's an area subject to change, because what we're hoping is that this manual will be a technical document that will help people comply with our ordinance and help to explain it. So a lot of the meat of this manual will very much is dependent upon how the stormwater ordinance is adopted. Then we have some stormwater management best practices. How do you choose which types of stormwater management practices might work in your yard for the volume of water that you would like to capture and treat? We talk about application requirements, and we talk about how a non-engineer can actually implement stormwater practices on your land. And while this is a manual structured towards helping to explain and implement the ordinance, we also hope that it's useful for anyone who wants to manage stormwater on their land. And so, again, I wanted to sort of plug this work by the Coastal Federation, because this is the kind of types of management practices that we are hoping to encourage in Nags Head, in people's yards, where they use landscaping solutions, rain barrels, cisterns, some of the things that some people are already doing as a way to help us manage the amount of runoff that's coming off of individual lots into our public rights of way. It also finally would include some technical information, soils maps, some fact sheets that the Coastal Federation is going to help develop for us. And what you see here is kind of the framework and some examples of what could be included in the Best Management Practices Manual. We're not thinking of this as a draft for you to approve. Rather, this is a guidance document that we will continually improve over time based on what's working well, what people are getting stuck on in terms of confusion, and trying to explain what these new proposed rules are and do. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and then as a second part of this agenda topic, I think we're also trying to collect any additional public comment that people may have. We're collecting that public comment. At the end of this meeting, we're going to sort of put together those comments and bring back some revisions and recommendations to you for your consideration at future meetings in terms of possible adoption of the ordinance. One thing I would add is that I do want to make it clear that we're not trying to rush or pressure this process. We think, we've been working on it for about a year. I think we have some members of our committee here, and I think I speak for them when they have put a great deal of work, and what they have proposed is thought out based on our existing context and the problems that we're seeing now. It's not to say that the old ordinance didn't work in its time, because I think it did. It was actually a very forward-thinking ordinance, and it has served the town very well. But conditions have changed, development has changed, some of the rules have changed in terms of how much water you can dump onto DOT or dump into the ocean through those outfall pipes. So we're trying to stay up to date, and there's been a great deal of work that's gone into it, and we're not in a hurry to force something through. We want to make sure everyone has a good understanding of what it means and that this board is very comfortable with adopting it. A third and final thing I'll say is because of the state changes in legislation, as an environmental ordinance, this ordinance has to be adopted unanimously. So that is another reason for going slow, to make sure everyone feels like they can, if we're going to move forward, we have to move forward unanimously, with a unanimous vote of this board. So, any questions?
Questions from the team?
Okay, thanks.
We're going to open it up for public comment. Anybody that would care to comment on the proposed stormwater ordinance or the BMP Manual, please just come to the podium and give us your thoughts. Give us your name and address, and then your thoughts, actually.
John Ratzenberger, I live on Sea-Watch Court in the village, and I don't want to appear thick or stubborn to Ms. Teague or Mr. Ryan here, but I, of course, honed in immediately on the non-engineered solution of all this, and I do have it. I just haven't digested it, and I'm simply confused. In 34.8, it says preparer certification, and then it says for a single-family structure, the requirements, the preparer's requirements are established in 34.5, and I thought that was kind of like the requirements to be a preparer. But when I go to 34.5, I don't see that addressed anywhere. I mean, I understand engineer and how to be an engineer, but the non-certified thing escapes me in the ordinance as to what it is. I get a hint in the BMP manual because it looks like it's under 2 feet and over 2 feet is by the titles. I'm simply confused. I'm not trying to argue.
If, instead, there's a typo, it's 34.8.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry, if we can get you on the record.
Actually, section 34.8 references 34-6, and there's a typo in
This is a 6.
there. Yes.
Aha. Okay. Wow, it's even longer, more complicated. All right, well, I'm going to go back and read 34.6 more carefully, but I wasn't sure I understood what my requirements are for a non-engineering person to do this. That's all. Just a question.
Anybody else? Sir?
Good evening. My name is Karl Powell Worsley. I live at 310 Bridge Lane, and I'm speaking as a public comment citizen and builder of Nags Head. I'm gonna make that straight. I was on the committee, and I gave my 2 cents worth there a lot of times. But anyway, I'm speaking as a citizen. I've resided on Outer Banks since 1973. I've lived in the town of Nags Head since 1982. And it's amazing how time flies when you start looking back at it. And as time flies, I think about the one way that we're going to have a northeaster is to have an election. And you put a lot of signs out, and they're all over the ground. But that's a sure way to have a northeaster. But the stormwater issue, it came to light in the summer of 2012 when we had a 32-inch 60-day rain event. 60-day rain event where, our aquifers were topped out. So I just want to be sure that this whole thing came to light with that. Yeah, we have problem areas in town. There's no doubt about it. And I call them hot spots, problem areas. And yes, the town is finally starting to address some of them. I pick on the Vista Colony area, back up there behind Ace Hardware, and there's nice ditching going on, and I think it's pretty well working like it's supposed to. I think it's been a success. And during our fill ordinance as we have it today, it's kind of like you can fill the base flood, but we still got to build a foot above that. Has that been rescinded, that extra foot of fill? No. This is town ordinance now. That's right. So we still got to build a foot above BFE. All right, I'm all for some common sense approach on this. Every site is kind of site-specific, very different. Topography is going to be different, and I'm kind of like simple on this issue. And that's why, one reason I want to be on the committee, was to try to keep it as simple as we can. And matter of fact, Dave and Andy have tried hard. I mean, they were employed to guide us through this process. And so anyway, I got a few suggestions on some easy, not total solutions, but some ideas. And I'd rather for us to have Ralph Burrell, Public Works guy, we hire him a stormwater director, or some title that we put on him. Because right now, I'd rather have Ralph being proactive, fixing stormwater infrastructure that we have, than have Elizabeth hire a stormwater cop to enforce what little bit of stuff we got going on in the town as far as building and redevelopment. We've got ways to pay for this. Right now, we have a stormwater fee on our water bill. That's one of the things that we need to do. However, we could revisit that fee. It's not a very big fee to pay for some people, some equipment. And then also another idea, and I've spoke about this out loud even in the committee, is in the wintertime, consider taking trash pickup from 2 days a week to 1 day a week. It's like for a 4-month period. Use that same resource, manpower, and put them on some equipment and work our infrastructure that's been lacking for so many years. Now, we've started, it's been turned, and we're starting to head that way. Now, redevelopment, a new house, you can kind of try to plan it all the way through the whole process. But in redevelopment, you've got a house that's already existing, or building already existing, and all of a sudden, you're in a box right out of the gate. You got lot coverage, you got fill that you probably have to go and put on for the septic, because the health department is going to probably make you redo something. Parking requirements, base flood elevation to consider, and then now a stormwater issue that you're going to have if you want to put a room on your house, and all of a sudden it's like, well, where do you put stormwater in redevelopment? There are different ways to control rainwater, stormwater on your lot. One is through gutters. One is through some swelling, simple swelling, and then some bulkhead, simple bulkhead, and we've addressed those at that committee. As I talk about these solutions, we got to go back and remember that epic rain we had. And I can remember riding around town, summer of 2012, Vista Colony was a bad spot, Nags Head Acres, Nags Head Pond, Memorial Avenue. And I'm thinking of all these areas, and basically what had happened, I'm going to even keep doing Beach Road. I was always on a heavy rain, got water standing in it. South Nags Head, South Ridge had some issues, and that's in a non-flood zone up there behind the post office. Yeah, we can capture 1.5 inches of rain on sites, but with our soil conditions there, they're pretty good. But when the water table rises, there's no place to put it. I mean, it's there until it goes away. Last week, we had the rain gauge at my house in a 24-hour period. I had 3.5 inches of rain at my house last week, and it went away quick. Of course, it was dry prior to that. But when you had an accumulation of rain, the water table is going to rise, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. I think we need to concentrate on fixing the infrastructure. I mean, there'll be some people with their feelings hurt if you do it, where you go into a subdivision, and I'll pick on like Nags Head Acres, where you go in and do some more ditching or some swells. Nags Head Pond, the same thing. I mean, if you just kind of clean it up, dress it up. I think we get positive results with it, with some infrastructure work, versus having an ordinance that's a huge burden on builders and this repair the infrastructure is my speaking on it, and I'll part with this. I'm speaking as a citizen and as a builder tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Anybody else speak on the stormwater ordinance? You sure you're not running for something, Mr. Murphy?
I believe he is.
Have no political agenda whatsoever. I've got enough going on in my life. I'm Richard Murphy, 8817 South Old Oregon Inlet Road. And good evening again, Mayor and Commissioners. I had the opportunity and privilege to work on the Stormwater Committee, and I'm not speaking as a member of the Planning Board or as a member on the committee. I'm speaking as a citizen. I think the public needs to understand that we had several objectives here, and the number one objective was to address what goes on in development from this point on. Number two was to make our ordinances as concise as possible and easily read so that you don't need to have an engineer decide exactly what you can do and what you can't do. And that facilitates builders like Pogge being able to do on-site management with help of David Ryan, from our town, as a town engineer, without having to have a certified engineer's certificate, to do a small lot, build a house on it. The thing that most people misunderstand is that this stormwater ordinance is not going to correct any problems that we've created in the past. It's going to circumvent us from adding to the problems that already exist. As Pogge said, identifying infrastructure problems, that's one thing that we need to do. We need to not only identify the problem areas, but then we need to prioritize those. And the commissioners need to have Ralph Perrell or whoever in the town so that once we identify those, we try to prioritize them and fund them. We have things as nice as the village of Nags Head was done. We've got boxed in areas of driveways with culverts that are not sized properly, not aligned properly. So we've got water that goes, from one area to another, and then it's all of a sudden. So some of those driveways need to be either torn up and the proper grade put on the drain lines so that we have a proper flow to our outfall. And this idea of, well, it belongs to the state, it's their fault. No, it's this one's fault. There is no fault here. If the state does not have the funds to take care of our ditches and so that we have the proper drainage, then we need to belly up and take that as a needed thing in order to correct our past inequities. And but identifying them is going to be very important. And there's some, and we're not talking about something that can cost a lot of money. I think Pogge's suggestion of, maybe using some existing personnel, during off months, of the year to do some things. That's something we can do, but that would really, the average citizen would really appreciate us addressing those things. And even if it's shared swales, encouraging shared swales between property owners, so it goes down a property line, there's a lot of different things that we can suggest as town and the town staff can suggest. And I think we need to address that because stormwater is a problem and everybody complains about it. And I know you've heard me say as simple as the little swell that the DOT finally put in South Nags Head. It's amazing how effective that has been. Because for the last 20 years, anytime it's rained, the right-hand side of the road headed north at milepost 17 was always covered. There was 6-8 inches of water every time. We've had rains now, like we had last week. There's no water on the road. It's amazing what a little swell like that would do. So I would encourage us and the town manager to find a way to identify these problems and try to address them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on our proposed stormwater ordinance? Anyone at all? Yes, ma'am.
After our last comment session, we had a great workshop, I thought. But one of the things that really stuck to me was the 1 foot of fill versus 1 foot of concrete underneath a building pad. And quite honestly, I think that's something we need to look at, whether that 1 foot of fill would be better than 1 foot of concrete. And that's just under the building pad, not for the whole site. But concrete is going to be impervious anyway, so I think we ought to take a look at that and see how that works. That one kind of stuck with me. If we make somebody put a foot of concrete underneath their building pad to meet that BFE or whatever, versus 1 foot of fill, what are we accomplishing?
We're making it more expensive.
Well, that's one that stuck with me, and Poggy and I have had the conversation, and quite honestly, I do think we need to make sure we're making decisions for the right reasons. Not just we want to accomplish what's best for the town in the long term. And I'm not sure 1 foot of fill, which is permeable, is not as good as 1 foot of concrete, which is impermeable.
So that would be allowing fill up to BFE +1, is that?
Only under the footprint of the house is what I'm not talking about for the whole lot, because I'm not in favor of fill. I'm one of the ones that's had a lot of heartburn with fill and what it does to our neighbors. It really creates chaos. And I think of a couple sites in particular. But I think we need to take a look at the big picture versus the micro picture on that.
Are you saying you prefer that it be a choice versus, say, rule, or do away with all the concrete under the house and put it fill, or, and I'm interested in what Poggy, as the builder, how is his reaction to?
I think it may need to be a choice. It may need to be either fill, it may need to be concrete, it could even be pilings.
Or gravel? Or
You know,
whatever?
something,
Put a gravel.
I'm not sure that concrete, for concrete's sake, is where we need to go. And I'm just throwing that out to the board, that we need to have some more discussion on that particular issue.
And pilings would be allowed, right?
Right,
I mean,
pilings would
you
be
could do
allowed.
pilings.
You do need to clarify, because the ordinance does not say you have to put a foot of concrete under your house. I think what
It does,
what it comes up
I realize that.
Yeah.
That wasn't my point. My point was, if they want it to be on a level, it has to be, or the way that's written is concrete. And I'm not sure that, because pilings are allowed, period, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
But if
And
they wanted it.
People have the choice of doing like a short piles with a step up, or we will allow them, if they want to put in that extra foot, to have that sort of flush entrance, then that's their choice. But it's not something that we're directing them to do. And similar, I think you make a good point, is as long as it's under the roof line and it's under the footprint of the house, then it's not creating the stormwater impact that we're trying to avoid. So we actually have supported whatever solution the builder wants to create, whether it's short pile or concrete. So just to make sure people know that we're not requiring the cement.
The threshold that we have utilized for the fill ordinance is base flood elevation. And so now that has changed over time to base flood +1. So in order to go ahead and get to that, builders have been opting to go ahead and go with the thickened concrete slab, because we're still at the base flood elevation threshold for fill. So now it's just going ahead and changing that. You know, we have the ability to go ahead and change that, so the fill is allowed to base flood +1. So,
That would be the cure
yes.
for that?
Okay.
Other comments, John? I've got a question more for, I don't know who it's for, but we talk a lot about in our BMPs about not draining to the outfalls or to the public right-of-way. And it seems like the vast majority of our subdivisions already do that. And that was kind of how they were all designed, and I mean, I will compliment past folks, because we were low-impact development before there was a name for it. And that's why we've got all these open swales. But how many of our neighborhoods or subdivisions do drain to the outfall system? Because it seems like we're even looking to balance out some of that load.
That's the position we're in now with DOT, and we're struggling with the most effective way that we've determined to take the next step for Vista Colony and Nags Head Acres is to do exactly that, is to drain it into the outfall system. And David had come up with his proposal recommended that, and it also, like you said, balanced those three outfalls so that one's not being overloaded. It equally distributes the stormwater, so it kind of helps in two areas, but DOT has been extremely reluctant, not reluctant, they've denied any additional water in their right-of-way because of the liability that they're afraid of. But
There's two parts to this. One is that part of drainage internal to the subdivision, and what Roberta is putting up here is a graphic that is in the ECU document that was recently prepared that looked at two different subdivisions. One, Old Nags Head Place, the other one was Nags Head Acres. And basically what they did was they went from house to house and they looked at what the existing drainage infrastructure was. They mapped out where the culverts were and where the existing swales were. Those dark lines along the roadway depict where the existing swales are. In this neighborhood, you can see about 50% of them have swales. The other half, either the swales have been filled in by the individual homeowners or they were not constructed up front. So first, we have to look at it internally. How do we go ahead and fix this? And that's done through infrastructure improvements as far as the annual maintenance that's performed by Public Works. That's an ongoing thing that Public Works does annually. Some neighborhoods are more resistant than others, this being one of them. So it's getting these subdivisions and these homeowners to buy in that not only are they going to see the benefit of it, but also the subdivision as a whole is going to see the benefit of it. Once we solve that problem, then we look at the downstream improvements and the ability to go ahead and connect to those ocean outfalls. That is under, as it currently stands, is under the responsibility and operation of NCDOT. Right now, I think it's been somewhere in the range of close to a year that we've been in talks with DOT about addressing problems within this specific neighborhood and also Vista Colony, and coming up with a solution in order to tie those neighborhoods together, connect them to the NCDOT drainage system and to an outfall to provide some drainage relief during heavy rainfall events. That is getting more and more complicated as time goes on. We're also dealing with DENR, with the Division of Water Quality, which is no longer, I think that name has changed here recently. But their regulations are ever evolving and ever changing, becoming more stringent over time. So it's getting more and more difficult for us to go ahead and just send water downstream. That's why it's important for us to go ahead and try to treat it at the source, not only for water quality benefits, but also to address the capacity, because like it's depicted right here, sometimes water has nowhere to go because there's no infrastructure in place to be able to handle it. I hope that answered your question.
I guess part of what I'm trying to say is that the vast majority of these subdivisions were designed and already put water into that right-of-way. This one, for example, that's the one where we have the pipe that's higher. So overflow goes out of there and goes to the DOT right-of-way already.
Okay, yeah, and that pipe is in the lower right-hand corner. The size of that pipe is 15 inches in diameter, and that was only installed to handle that corner of that subdivision. It was not handled to handle the entire subdivision. There were other drainage improvements that were supposed to go in whenever it was platted. Up there on the northern section, in Section 8, I believe that there was a drainage easement that was supposed to be recorded as part of that approval. That was never recorded, and there was no infrastructure that was ever put in place. So there was thought back in the time to go ahead and address these drainage situations, but some of these improvements were never made.
But I guess, again, I'm saying that a lot of this water already goes to the NCDOT right-of-way because it's been going there for years. And the pond, I guess, is another example. But it only happens when you get a big rainfall. So it's not the first flush of stuff. Well, like this one, the pipe's several inches above. It's got to build up. It's got to back up enough before it gets going through there.
But the willingness for DOT to go ahead and accept additional runoff is getting more and more complicated. And that's what we're running into.
But where it's already established that they're accepting it, is that, what I hear us talking about is that, okay, well, Old Nags Head Place, that one's a pretty direct shot to the outfall, and probably because it was designed a number of years ago. But the lots that haven't been built in there, what it looks like this is saying is that you can't put that water out into that swale in front of the house. You've got to retain it on site.
If you don't fill, then no on-site measures are required. If you do fill, then you have to retain that on-site up to 1.5 inches. Anything over 1.5 inches is not being regulated in this case.
So it would flow into that swale system and out to the outfall.
That swale system, again, that's another good case where development has occurred over the course of the past 10 to 15 years within that development. That swale system is discontinuous because landscaping stone has been put in there, that flow line has been altered, or some of those swales have been filled in altogether. Now, Public Works goes back and they try to reclaim those areas, and we did that this past winter.
We did that in Old Nags Head Place and reopened some of those swales.
But there's still problems. If you look at the very south end of Linda Lane, that's a low area that we've tried to go ahead and connect to the DOT system, and they said basically no. We tried to go ahead and send that to the outfall. We contacted Diener. They said no. We're having difficulty trying to find places to go ahead and send the drainage.
The new water, if
The new
that
water.
makes sense.
Yeah,
The
as
new
opposed
water.
to the water that's already being accepted.
And if, you know, one of the things that I've reviewed recently is going back and looking at the original DOT plans whenever they widened the bypass. That ditch system was only designed to handle the runoff from the roadway. It wasn't designed to handle the runoff from these neighborhoods, whether it was connected or not. Same thing with these outfalls. These outfalls were designed to go ahead and take ocean overwash dating back to the 60s. They weren't designed to go ahead and handle the runoff from these individual neighborhoods. When back in the day, you were only talking about 1/3 of the development that we see today.
But I would submit that they weren't designed at all, to be honest with you. I think they were just plopped in there to relieve the overwash. And there wasn't as much, I don't think there was as much planning on that as there is now.
They were put in to fix the problem that day.
Yeah.
They weren't there to fix the problem today.
That's correct.
Now, I mean, do you see overloading? I guess we're saying some of these pipes are overloaded, the red drum one, and some of them are underloaded, the Curlew Street. Is that
Right.
accurate?
In the information that I received from some other engineering firms, the flows taken from Red Drum, I think, were somewhere in the order of 2 to 3 times of what we're seeing at Curlew Street and Conch Street. And all 3 of those outfalls have the same pipe diameters, and it's the same configuration. You know, and that's the other part of it, is the DOT ditch system, again, wasn't really designed to handle the additional volume of runoff. So some of those cross culvert pipes are undersized to go ahead and handle all the additional volume and flow through that system. So there really is whole complexity to this infrastructure. And basically what we've tried to do over time is retrofit what was existing and dump more water in it.
We're kind of talking about apples and oranges. The issues that we have today that we're trying to address are not the issues that DOT was trying to solve after Ash Wednesday. DOT reacted to an issue where the ocean met the sound, we had all this trapped water, and there was a need to get rid of that water pretty quickly. They did that through a series of ditches and outfalls that were a reaction. Not necessarily, you didn't have to have things permitted then. So they got rid of the water that we had in the town that was flooding everybody's property. So we're now today talking about DOT accepting. DOT didn't have permission a lot of times to do what they did back in 1962. They didn't have to, there weren't nearly as many residents, there weren't nearly as many houses. And the issue was get rid of it so we can get back, because the town was pretty well cut off from Jockey's Ridge South. And that issue may arise again, but we're now trying to put more into a system that was never designed to handle the load that we have today.
And I think that's part of the resistance that we're getting from DOT today with the proposals that we have sent in.
And they're pretty clear in saying it's our responsibility to keep the waters off our streets, meaning their streets.
Well, and our streets too. I mean, all of Memorial and Wrightsville drain to that ditch system, which goes directly to the outfalls.
That's correct.
Other comments, y'all? Sorry, I didn't mean to talk so long. Anybody else?
And if I could answer Mr. Worsley's question about having a stormwater director, well, his prayers are answered because there is a stormwater director, but that's not his name. His given name is a project coordinator, and that would be myself. So, as far as capital improvement projects, they're always ongoing. I think that 4 cents equates to about $100,000 a year for the town to go ahead and invest and to go ahead and upgrading infrastructure within town. So last year, I think the town manager came up with 17 or 18 projects. We've knocked a handful of them out. We've got more in the pipeline. That's always ongoing. That's never going to go away. So myself, the Public Works Director, Town Manager, we're on top of it. We look for opportunities to go ahead and improve on any situation when the opportunity presents itself.
And the next project, one of the next projects to be done on that list was the connector for Nags Head Pond going in between Dirty Dicks and Nags Head Realty. And we're going to have that one under contract sometime this year. We're just waiting for Dirty Dicks to close because we don't want to cut the power to the restaurant while they're open.
Right. That's scheduled for after the Thanksgiving holiday.
And that will do what? That will take water from...
It's going to help Nags Head Pond get to, it's going to replace a 30-year-old pipe with a bigger pipe, and we know there's holes in that pipe. I mean, there's one underneath the bypass. That's the one that really needs to be replaced, but this will replace an old pipe.
That's correct.
But not to blame. Point finger.
Scratch that.
You know, I don't know how everybody else feels, but the Vista Colony project, I kind of felt repercussions. It's, you know, unintended consequences from something that we were trying to do well. And I don't think we went back and corrected, but I don't know that we foresaw how it was going to turn out.
I don't think we foresaw a 200-year rainfall event occurring simultaneous with that project either.
Would have been a better year to do it this year, I think. But
I believe so.
I do have one question, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
David, is that pipe that you're going to do there at Dick's Crap House, is that also going, you mentioned Nags Head Pond, isn't that also going to relieve some of the water there at Nags Head Acres? Doesn't it have something to do with that?
As it stands right now, there is no physical connection between Nags Head Pond and Nags Head Acres as far as drainage goes.
As it stands right now?
As it stands right now.
What does that mean?
David, I think what she's referring to is the water, the connector that you talked about that comes out on the south end of Nags Head Acres.
Which that
Will
takes.
that flow into this pipe?
No, that actually takes a different flow path.
Okay.
That actually flows across the bypass eastward and then comes back northward before it enters into the Red Drum Ocean outfall. The one that we are replacing is a more direct route to the Red Drum Ocean outfall.
Okay.
So there's two different flow paths from the west side neighborhoods that meander through the internal neighborhoods out to Red Drum.
They end up in the same place, but
Yep, but you're
Takes a
right,
little
that
bit.
was the one, okay, thanks.
Other questions, comments?
Change is always difficult, and when we did the Vista Colony Nags Head Acres project, I think he did a marvelous job. I mean, the mayor probably took a lot of the blunt for the swales or the ditches or whatever you want to call it. It's worked. You're gonna have people bitch and complain about what it looks like until time eases the pain a little bit. But we haven't had the flood. Now, of course, I gotta say, we probably haven't had the rain as badly as we have, but I can remember, because I've lived there for a long time too. The water in Nags Head Acres has not been ponding like it was. It's been draining. Whether it's being pumped into our resource in Nags Head Woods, or whether it's wherever it's going, you have done a remarkable job in getting that project, at least a rein on that project. And are to be commended for it. And I believe the same thing, what you'd mentioned about these projects are always going to be there. We just have to address them as we can, and take it from there. DOT is never going to end. Our relationship with DOT has gone from us acceptable projects in the town to they're not accepting anything anymore. So, that was just something we'll have to work on in the future. I just think that we're doing what we should be doing, and I appreciate your hard work.
Well, thank you for that. And as far as Vista Colony goes and that groundwater lowering project, I've been monitoring that since dating back to February when I first started with the town. Since April, there has not been any standing water within that pond, which basically means if there's no standing water within that pond, there's no standing water within those ditches. Even the rainfalls that we had last week, there was probably an inch of water in the pond at the peak of the rainfall event. You go out there today, no evidence of water whatsoever. So I think that project has really done a phenomenal job in managing the groundwater out there. We had a location to go ahead and displace that water. We're just running out of different locations to find where we can send waters in other parts of the town.
Sure.
And I think that's part of the key is getting that water out of there.
Right.
And that's what that dewatering project has done. I think we've got to look at the cost of that project compared to the size of the problem that we solved. And I think that's kind of the danger is we spend a lot of money.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, sorry. But thank you for your efforts. We did get it resolved, and those folks are a lot happier now.
Well, not with you, but they're a lot happier.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anything else for David?
how would you like us to proceed at this point with the adoption of the ordinance? I mean, are you ready for it to come back before you? I mean, for action? Tonight was to get to the BMP and be able to review that, have the opportunity for the public to speak and to take the input you just took. What's our marching orders from here?
I mean, I would like the opportunity to read the BMP one more time.
It's been a little quick.
It's a lot of stuff.
Do you feel ready for the ordinance? I mean, we'll wait to put it on for adoption when you tell us, when you give it direction.
Do you all want to hear it? Do you have time enough to look at it before the first meeting in November?
And again, it has to be unanimous. So if we really need to work through, if this is something that you want to see adopted in the town, it's got to be unanimous. So I don't want you to feel like we're rushing it.
And I think my direction to Cliff was, we want it to be right, we don't want it to be fast.
Why don't you give us a month? And that'll take us to mid-November.
I wonder if, I mean, we had the workshop to discuss the ordinance, but the BMP is such a significant part of the ordinance. Would it be beneficial to hold a workshop just to go through the BMP so that we're all on the same page, we all have the same understanding, we all have the opportunity to make comments, and it gives us a little more time to gather more community comments. I mean, they keep flowing in, and I think the more information we have, the better decision we can make.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh.
If we had a workshop on the ordinance, we need to have a workshop on the BMP. I can't say that we've honestly had a time to digest it since Friday.
No, that's why I say it,
It's a lot, and it's important, and I think we need to hear, I think the public needs time to digest it as well, if they've even had a chance to even look at it. So I'm not ready to even put it on agenda for adoption at this point.
Now, it's only 62 pages, y'all.
Well, it's important,
We
and we
could-
need to get it right.
Put some technical stuff in there, so.
There are some questions that we need to ask in a workshop setting, not just a board setting, that need explanation.
Mid-month October, sometime,
November.
schedule a
We're at
workshop.
mid-month October
November,
already.
excuse me.
Right now, the only thing we have on an agenda for the mid-month November would be the annual report from the staff. So the workshop could take place of that.
When is mid-month November? Is that during the, right at NC
Thanksgiving.
byways?
Yes.
It's the day after.
no, it's, you'll be back.
It's the day after.
Well, that's Monday and Tuesday, and you're looking at Wednesday night for the mid-month. It's over Tuesday afternoon.
Could we have the workshop prior to the meeting?
Prior to the beach inlets,
No, prior
prior to the Wednesday board
the
meeting?
Wednesday board meeting.
Who's going to the beach inlets, waterways?
I am.
I am.
I am.
We have a board of directors meeting as well during that time period for beach and inlet waterways, as well as, there may be some new things going on down there.
Well, what does the board want to do? The other option that we've got is to put it to the new board.
No.
Why can't you have a workshop the week
Well, I mean,
before?
if you can't do it on the 20th, then we would probably have to do
Back up the week
meeting?
before to the
a
13th?
maybe, something like that.
I'm
I
out
think
of
I think it would, I think it'd probably behoove us to have this board vote on this project.
I tend to agree.
I
Been working on it.
agree.
We're looking for dates, y'all. To me, it sounds like the 20th is going to be tough with
Okay.
the beach and inlets piece. The Wednesday before is the 13th, but Anna, are you out of town on that date?
Yes, mhm.
Okay.
What I'm saying, the 20th though, you can have a workshop and the mid-month meeting at the same time. What's the deal?
That suit
I think
everybody?
Renee may not have been, was going to plan, were you not going to be back? Is that what you were saying?
I was coming back Wednesday, not Tuesday, but I can be back for an afternoon meeting if we want to have a workshop.
I
Well,
think
I mean,
we
we
were
can do it
talking
Wednesday. I
about
mean, it's-
7 o'clock Wednesday night.
Scheduled 7 o'clock Wednesday night.
That's the board meeting, but we could do a 5 o'clock workshop.
Well, no, you don't
But
have
right
to.
now,
You
you've
can
got
do
one
it-
thing on the agenda, I think,
You
for the
can do
board
it at
meeting.
the,
don't need a meeting.
you can do it at the same time.
Oh, if we do it as a workshop instead of a meeting, that'd
Yeah.
be great.
Does that suit everybody, Anna? Is that okay with you?
Will the workshop be in place of the meeting? Is that what you're saying? So we won't have anything else on the agenda
What else did you say we
Just the
had?
annual report, and that can wait.
that can wait? Well, I'm like Susie, if you're going to have the annual report and the workshop, maybe you need to move this up to 6 o'clock. But if you're going to delay that, then, you know, whatever.
We
I
can delay
just
that to
want,
December.
if there's anyone that's going to be out in the audience for this, I just want them to have time to also hash it out with the board. I mean, I don't want to be looking at 9 o'clock trying to start the meeting.
So I'm hearing workshop at 7 o'clock.
That's fine.
Delay the annual report to December.
Sorry, you'll miss that, man.
Yeah, I know, me too.
I'm going to miss
For
that.
workshop at 6 o'clock.
Y'all want 6 or 7?
7 if that's the only thing on there. Give us a chance to eat dinner.
7 o'clock workshop then on the BMP part of the stormwater plan.
You already changed the meeting several times, you know, why you want to change it to 6?
What- It's a workshop. It's,
Why would you want to change it?
huh?
Why would, we had a meeting that night anyway.
Just be earlier and have more time to digest and have the workshop, but, so that it doesn't last, I mean, workshops typically last a little longer, but it's okay.
Okay, I hear 7 o'clock for BMP workshop. And if we can advertise that.
Got it.
Anything else? Everybody okay with that? Okay. Our next item is G, items referred to in presentations from the town attorney.
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing to report at this time,
Good.
unless you want me to. I can take up some time here.
It's okay. Mr. Manager?
Yes, a few things. First, we received, I gave you the memo from Jerry Jennings with DOT yesterday in regards to their recommendations for traffic safety or pedestrian safety at the Little Bridge. First, I'll say, before that, I received the confirmation that they have agreed to the two crosswalks. They've confirmed that the two crosswalks, one being at Jeanette's Pier, one being at Nags Head Pier, the other one being at Outer Banks Pier. And also, they'll be submitting us the paperwork that they need for the continuation of the 35 mile per hour speed limit another mile south of Outer Banks Pier. That, Carolyn will have that amendment to the traffic control map on your consent agenda for November 6th. So those are taken care of. The memo from, if it's okay, it's short. I'd like to read it to get, other than, I just want to make sure it's all out. It's dated October the 15th. This follows our discussion at the Board of Commissioners workshop on August 21st regarding the pedestrian crossing at the Little Bridge. Our traffic engineering personnel have completed a review of the concerns, including on-site investigations, analysis of accident and speed data, review of applicable standards and guidelines, and consideration of all complaints and concerns received. The concerns center on the safety of pedestrians crossing US 64. The following changes have been made to date. Installed high visibility crosswalk and pedestrian refuge island. Installed in-street pedestrian signs on islands. Installed pedestrian warning signs at crossing and pedestrian warning signs 1,000 feet in advance of the crossing. Painted out center turn lane on the bridge east of the crossing and installed reflective delineator post on the island. The following recommendations have resulted from the recent investigation. This is what they're proposing to do. Install pedestrian informational signs on each side of the crossing. That you'll remember they felt pretty strongly that we need to educate the pedestrians on making sure that they don't assume that they have safe passage, that it's still incumbent upon them to wait for traffic, or to get a break in the traffic before they cross. Install additional pedestrian warning signs 500 feet in advance of the crossing. So now we'll have them 1,000 feet and 500 feet coming in either direction. Install advanced warning flashers in conjunction with the pedestrian warning signs. This is what a lot of people have been asking for, is the flashing lights. And we've got them in other areas, and I'll ask when we're done David to come up and give you some of those options, because the caveat this by saying they will do this subject to the identified funding, and I think you'll see that out of Powell that we can pay for that, or I'm suggesting that you pay for that. Continue to work with the town and the Outer Banks Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Coalition to better educate pedestrians and motorists regarding the proper use of crosswalks. At our previous meeting, there were questions about a pedestrian traffic signal that would stop all traffic along US 64 to allow pedestrians to cross. In this paragraph, I won't read this word for word, but what they basically say is that this crosswalk does not meet the requirement for the standard in order to install that. So they've looked at putting in across traffic lights like we have at Jockey's Ridge. That doesn't meet the standard, so that's not recommended. In regard to speed limit, we performed a spot speed study and determined that the 85th percentile speed is 56 miles per hour. And I shared this memo with the police chief, and our radar trailer verified the exact data. So we've trusted and verified that data. This method is one of the primary factors in determining an appropriate speed limit. The road is currently posted at 50 miles per hour, and traffic is comfortable driving at this speed. While many vehicles voluntarily slow down in the presence of pedestrians, a lowered speed limit would apply at all times regardless of pedestrian activity. They basically have said the data doesn't support the reduction of the speed limit. They're not recommending to do that. Then they go on to say the recommended improvement should be complete within the next 60 days. We will monitor the situation once these changes have been implemented and will take further actions as may be appropriate. I think this is we recommend you do this. David's going to come up and show you some of the cost of some of these traffic signals. I think in order to stay within the 60 days, if we could fund these lights, but on the condition that they install them and maintain them, they become theirs. I think this isn't all that we hoped for, but it's a step. And it's clearly you all and the members of the public aren't going to let this go with this. If it doesn't help, if it doesn't improve, it ain't going to go away. So our recommendation is that we go with this, you fund the lights, and we see where we go from here. And it may take a year because it's not the time to be evaluating things for pedestrian safety, but hopefully I haven't put you on the spot, David.
No, not at all. What DOT uses as a point of reference in reviewing these situations is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. When you do an engineering study, you look at the vehicles that you have per hour in the area that you're evaluating, and then also you look at the number of pedestrians that you have crossing those 4 lanes. In this case, the warrant was 100 crossings per hour based upon the number of vehicles that were going back and forth. From the study, the evaluation that they had done, it did not meet that. I've been monitoring this situation since July. I live over on Roanoke Island, so I go back and forth there twice a day, sometimes more on weekends. The most that I've seen on the north side is 11 people fishing off the north side of the bridge. On average, I see about 3 people. This morning when I drove through, there was 11 people there. When I came home, there was 2. So it doesn't meet the warrants, so therefore, I don't think that there's any possibility that we can get a controlled intersection there with a light for those pedestrians to be able to cross and stop traffic at the same time. So based upon that, I think what they presented is just about every other safety measure that you can have other than putting in a controlled intersection, to include what they have existing already, the painted crosswalk, the refuge island, the signage right there at the crosswalk, the delineators, everything that they can do to alert motorists as to we've got this condition here. Additionally, they're proposing additional signage and a warning flashing light, which is almost identical, I believe, to what we currently have at the Nags Head Elementary School. So I think this is DOT's best shot at trying to make this situation as good as they possibly can based upon the standards that they have to go by. Now, as far as the costs go, I haven't gotten verbal confirmation from the traffic engineer on exactly what the configuration is that they're proposing as far as this warning light, but I got some estimates, and we're probably looking at about $7,000 as far as the cost of those flashers with the signage for installation. Now, that covers just the material costs and not the labor costs. I think a good solution here would be if the town decided to move forward with this, we would pay the material costs, DOT would go ahead and take care of the installation costs associated with this.
So I'm going to ask for the authority for up to 10,000 not to exceed, and that would come from Powell bill fund balance.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
Yes, if you don't mind. I don't object to that, but one thing that, as if everybody read their letter from Ms. Flatt, she pointed out something that I had observed, is that where people are standing to cross the road is at a much lower elevation than the road, and they're having to either step up to cross this road and step down on the other side and vice versa. And that creates kind of a scenario where they're hard to be seen. If there could be some leveling of the roadway to the shoulder, that would help the sight lines of people, because if you're at a lower elevation, it's kind of hard to see people as you're driving along. And I would think that should be included as one of the remedies, perhaps.
It's just on the south side though, right?
On the
Is it on
west
both
side,
sides?
west side of the bridge.
Yeah.
The west side of the bridge on north and south, but it's the west side of the bridge,
Right.
not the
No, I mean,
east
it's on the
side.
west side of the bridge, but it's on the southwest corner.
Actually, it's on both.
Is it
The
both
step
sides?
up and down,
Okay,
but it
yeah.
is the west side of the bridge, not the east side,
I think it's
where
more
that
dramatic.
lower
on
elevation
the-
is.
I think it's more dramatic on the north side, and I have received a phone call regarding that, and I've passed that along to DOT. I haven't gotten a response to that, but that will be something else that I can follow up on to ensure that that's addressed also.
I think that would increase visibility.
And we're hoping that the signage, the warning signage, the educational signage that, you know, cars can't see you, don't assume a car's going to stop, that will be, hopefully that'll help some of that. But it does need to be raised up, you're absolutely right.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. It's incremental, but it's at least a step in the right direction.
Did I miss something? Was there a time frame that this may all come together
60 days,
from today or whenever?
yes, from October, I'm giving them till December 15th.
Okay.
That's 60 days, so. Yep. Thank you. I know it's a long time coming, and I appreciate your patience in moving forward with this. I'm going to ask Elizabeth, we've got another grant opportunity for, along these lines, for a request in your packet, a letter authorizing my signature, letter of intent for a request for a community transportation grant.
Thank you, Cliff. The North Carolina Association of Local Health Directors has a community transformation grant program with the goal of trying to make sure that local land plans are in alignment with their strategy to increase the number of new or revised comprehensive plans that include health components. As part of our Parks and Recreation Plan, and again, we have some members of that committee here, one of the things that we really wanted to do was to promote the development and build out of those multi-use paths and to promote the location of our parks. We had been looking at wayfinding signage as an action item within that Parks and Recreation Plan. We've succeeded in implementing that incrementally. The district signage plan was obviously already in place, but we also have started signing our parks. And what we're proposing here is to apply for this grant in order to do some low-level pedestrian and bicycle signage along our multi-use paths and trails that would direct pedestrians and cyclists to key destinations, such as parks, beach accesses, of particular importance is the east-west signalized crosswalks. We want to make sure we're directing people to the appropriate cross streets. So that is the plan. This is a letter of an intent to apply, which means they ask you to sort of indicate that you want to apply, and then they'll tell you if you're in the ballpark. So we're not actually committing to the grant application. I mean, we're committing to the grant application, but we're not sure yet if we're going to be in the ballpark, although it sounds pretty positive in our communications with them. So what we need is permission for Cliff to sign this letter of intent, and then also for us to look at $500 coming out of the planning department budget as a local match. And it's really more of a symbolic match to just show them that we have local support for this program. And also, our regional RPO has offered to kick in some planning funds to show local match as well. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the team?
Yes. When will this, when will you know about this grant, Elizabeth?
Well, we need to submit the letter of intent by the end of this week, and then there's a process that they'll get back to us and tell us if we can make the full application, and it would happen sometime in December or January. I'm not sure about when we would hear from the actual grant, but probably it would be towards the end of the spring. We'd be looking at notification.
So we may not qualify to apply
We may
to the
not,
grant, for the grant?
They encouraged us to apply, and the RPO encouraged us to apply because we had some things in the works already. So I feel that we are qualified to apply, but this is the first step. It's similar to the CAMA grant. You put in your intent to apply, and they'll give you a yes or no before they ask you to do a full application.
Okay.
And do you need board action?
We do need your authority to submit the letter.
Motion to allow the town manager to apply.
Second.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Good work.
And our newest apparatus for the fire department is out in the parking lot. It's bright yellow, so the night light, you'll definitely see it out there. We're actually gonna have a reception for this piece of equipment. And because it is the town's apparatus, and we're gonna invite folks to come to the fire station, once our firefighters are fully trained and comfortable on this piece of equipment, to invite the community to come out and see their newest piece of equipment. It replaces an antique. I think by definition, it replaces an antique. It's served the town very well. But the police chief and his staff are extremely excited, and we've been long anticipating this, so.
How about the fire chief?
I mean, the fire chief, excuse me. Actually, I think the police
sure the
chief got
chief's
kind of
excited as
excited too. yeah.
The police chief is not quite as excited as the fire chief.
But who is?
Well, and I'm sure that you noticed, as the town manager noted, that the fire engine, beautiful Quint yellow fire apparatus is in the parking lot for your review as you walked into the Board of Commissioners meeting. We're very excited. We took delivery and accepted that apparatus yesterday, and I know that it came JIT just in time. It came on the 15th day of October, which was the final day of our contract. And I know Kim Kenny was standing by the door with a watch, looking at when that apparatus came flying and skidding into the lot. But
She had an invoice for liquidated
check,
damages.
too.
already
That's right.
drawn up. And a check.
As the manager mentioned, we are going to have some unveiling after we complete with all of our firefighter training. But I will take this opportunity to invite you, the board, and the general public to come out to the Fire Station 16 at Milepost 14 and check out the apparatus. And we will be glad to take you on a tour. And I'm sure you'd be very impressed with this symbol of our success and enhanced fire protection here in Nags Head. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank you for your wisdom, your guidance, and support of this project. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to help you.
Questions for the chief? Congratulations.
Great, thank you.
And then from their town family, do want to pass along our condolences, our thoughts and our prayers to the family of Lois Twine. Did you know she passed away a couple of weeks ago? She was the first female commissioner for the town of Nags Head. And as often happens, I guess, the first police chief, her husband died a year or so, or not that long ago. So we lost two members of our extended Nags Head family, and so we do want to, it was, Commissioner Sadler was there, the police chief and I both went, and she leaves quite a legacy behind. She has a large, the football team was there and to honor their coach, her son from Manual High School, and it was quite a legacy that she leaves behind, and they did mention it was one of the things she was proud of is serving the town of Nags Head. So our thoughts and prayers are with that family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner's agenda? Commissioner Sadler, would you like to start us off?
I'll let someone else go before me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I've got things to think about.
Commissioner Kane?
Mr. White talked about the ham radio operators having been in emergency management for a couple years. I can tell you that the ham operators were utilized during Hurricane Isabel quite extensively, and they are an asset. And I would hope that every fire station in Dare County has one. They are needed in times of emergency like that. Also, the governor has named a new chair of the Coastal Resources Commission. It is Mr. Frank Gorham from Figure 8 Island. Talked with him yesterday. He's looking forward to serving. The governor has filled all of his slots, so I look forward to a new meeting in December. But it's my belief that Mr. Gorham will be at NC Byways as well in November to meet and greet as well. He's very enthusiastic about taking the job. I think he'll be receptive to new ideas and will be willing to listen to how we develop our coastline and recognize that there are 3 distinct areas of our coastline, not all treated as one. So I'm excited about working with him.
Where is he from, Renee?
He's from Figure 8 Island.
Okay.
He actually
That's
has
good.
business in New Mexico, but he has property at Figure 8 and maintains a house there and is a resident of Figure 8
That'll
Island.
be good.
So I think
Congratulations on your reappointment, ma'am.
Thank you. There have been a few
With a few, the proud, the brave, there's been
things have changed. You now have to be sworn in, which has never happened before. So there are a few more hoops to jump through before you go through. So we'll see what happens. I expect a full quorum at the next meeting, not just 4, which would be exciting. The last thing that I have is I've listened very appreciatively to public comment this evening and about the track, and I will admit that having just gotten back from vacation, I was somewhat surprised to, first thing I saw on Thursday morning early was the Coastland Times, where the Dowdy's track was discussed at our last board meeting. And I will admit it took me somewhat aback that there was that discussion of such momentous impact on the town after we'd had a discussion mid-September. Knowing I was going to be gone, I was somewhat taken aback that that discussion came about. And I'm not sure it came about for the right reason, other than with the election coming up. But what took me aback most of all was the price. And Mayor, I admit I'm very concerned that a motion was made to pay $300,000 more than any discussion that we had discussed. And quite honestly, had it passed, the taxpayers would have been on the hook to pay a little bit more money than the asking price. And I've got to tell you that does cause me some consternation. As hard as we work on budgets to make them right, that we don't get it right. And I'm not trying to be critical, but I think that that is a decision that the full board should be involved in, not just 4, and for the correct reasons and the correct price.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem, anything?
We decided some time ago, everybody just lobbies everybody for funds. As the town knows, every organization comes along, looks to borrow, or not to borrow, but to have the town give money for one project or another. I had the opportunity, and this was really not a town function, but I had the opportunity last night to attend a fish fry for the Wounded Warriors. The Wounded Warriors campaign has been close to my heart for some time, and it's one of the things that I support. It was at Pamlico Jack's last night. It was a small function sponsored by the Anglers Club, and but it did have a group of Wounded Warriors there, of which it was a very, very good turnout, and I had the opportunity to talk to and meet these people. I think that the town, again, the town maybe sometime in the future could sponsor something for the Wounded Warriors program, a get-together, a fish fry or something, a little fundraiser for that organization. And I just thought that there's a need there. And maybe it's just because it's me, maybe it's just because it's so near and dear to me, but organizations like Wounded Warrior Project need support from the government also, and even local and state and federal government. So anyway, I attended. It was a good time. It was Kelly, of course, bless his heart, pitched in and gave the restaurant. And anyway, I just wanted to mention that we, not meaning to be, but we were represented, and it was very, very enjoyable to see these people come to the Outer Banks and enjoy the opportunity to go fishing and enjoy the benefits that we have year-round. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Walters?
A couple of things. This weekend is the Outer Banks Seafood Festival. Friday night is the kickoff event with the Dock and Dine event, which will occur on the event site at Windmill Point. There will be a shuttle from the Outer Banks Mall to that event, and it will begin at 6:30, from 6:30 until 10:30. There's live music, there's great food, and as of yesterday, I believe there were 35 tickets remaining to that event. So tickets are $50 a piece, so if you're interested, go to the Outer Banks Seafood Festival site at www.outerbanksseafoodfestival.org. And then also on Saturday is the big event, and that will begin at 11 and end at 7 p.m. There is no parking on site this year. However, you may walk to the event. We will have several crosswalks, 3 crosswalks with police there to secure safe passage across the highway. You may bicycle to the event. We will have shuttles at the following locations: Whalebone Park, Nags Head Town Hall, Nags Head Elementary School, the Gateway Bank beside New Horizons, and the Outer Banks Mall, which will also be a handicap accessible site. We will have a handicap bus available with a lift for those in a wheelchair that need that service. We also will have some wheelchairs available that will move through sand easier on the site for those that need those. And we will also have passage from the Dare County Center. We have vans coming from that site directly to the festival site, and the shuttle buses will only stay on the beach and travel in a loop. So hopefully that will help expedite the transportation a little more than last year. There is an entry fee this year. It's $3 per person. And once you get in, the food prices vary. I believe there are 24 food vendors this year, and prices range from roughly $5 to, I believe there might be one that's $13. But it should be a really good day. Lots of great music, lots of entertainment, lots of kid events. So I hope everybody can come out. Oh, I have one more thing. Sorry. We have rescheduled the Walk to School event due to massive rain. And that will be next Wednesday on the 23rd. And the locations, if you would like to walk with your children or grandchildren to school, are you can begin at Villa Dunes Drive. You can begin at the shopping center at 10.5 where Food Line is. You can cross at Bonnet Street where the YMCA is. And if you'd like to volunteer to help walk children to school, please be at one of those locations between 7 and 7:15.
The forecast looks good for your seafood festival,
Yes.
for our seafood festival. It looks, just checked, it looks very nice.
I had a message earlier that it wasn't looking
Well,
good.
they were calling for rain.
This
I
is
think that's
69,
Friday, part of
Which is
Friday.
not a bad temperature.
It should be a beautiful day.
So may everyone have a good time and much success.
As
Mayor,
many people
before
as
you
last
start your agenda, I found out what I wanted to say to Cliff, if I could preempt you just a moment. Cliff, I failed to tell you this the last meeting, but the people who asked me about this now want me to tell you thank you. The big H sign on the beach road. Thank you for getting that up. I don't know if you all have noticed that, but it's hard if you are a visitor here for the first time or second time. It's hard to find the hospital if you're in dire need of it in the dark on the beach road. You have no clue. And Cliff managed to get us one. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Maybe anything else?
No, that was it.
Under my agenda. I appreciate y'all's concerns. I do get frustrated sometimes, and that was probably one of those times. I do think, well, I don't think, I made a mistake on the price. At least it was a higher price and not a lower price. But I would like to put that back on the table in front of us this evening. At $1.5 million, a motion to buy the Dowdy's Park. I appreciate y'all's discussion last time. I think the word has gotten out among the public, and we've had some public response. So I'll put it out there as a motion to buy Dowdy's at $1.5 million rather than 1.8. Again, my mistake from the last time.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion.
May we have a closed session to discuss some issues, or, I don't know how to quite, I'm not the realtor in the group.
Well, would you like a motion to go into closed session under General Statute 143-318-11A5 for discussion on the Dowdy purchase, possible purchase? Is that what you're looking for, Renee? Because I got it from him.
That is the right
I'm not that
statute.
smart.
That's the right statute.
Thank you, sir.
Still not sure what I'm looking for. I can't believe I'm at a loss for words, but I am. Possible some concerns or caveats to the
Conditions placed
contract,
on the
conditions on purchase.
It is appropriate to go into closed session despite the fact that there's a motion pending now in order to have a discussion regarding instructions to give to the town's negotiating agents regarding the purchase of real estate. So it would be appropriate to do that if the majority wishes to do so.
So we can do that with a motion on the floor?
Yes, sir.
So now we've got a motion to go into closed session. We have not had a second for that yet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Is there anything we really can't say out here?
There's some questions I'd like to ask the attorney, if you don't mind.
No, ma'am. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to retreat to closed session, and we'll be back. We're going to come back into open session. I'm going to ask the attorney to briefly report out from our closed session. Just the no action piece, sir.
Okay. That's the brief part. Yeah, the board did discuss the acquisition of the Dowdy Amusement Park property, but no action was taken.
And I'm going to withdraw my motion
I'll withdraw my second.
and make a new motion, which I'm going to ask the attorney to read for me.
All right. I believe the proposed motion is that the town purchase the Dowdy's Amusement Park property for $1,500,000 with these conditions. One, the acquisition be conditioned on terms satisfactory to the town attorney, on the town's use of the property for community recreational use for all ages in perpetuity, and the property, once developed, be named Dowdy's Park.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
I think everybody's discussed that.
Yes, sir. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Here, there'll be no public outbursts. Yeah.
Any other business tonight, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. We're adjourned.